Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus Reports. Today is August 3rd, 2022, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there, this is Ben Dickerson, your co-host, ready to continue with our ongoing series about the greatest job in the NFL, or I think we call it the best job in the NFL. Either way, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's been a lot of fun. And we're finally at that division I've been dying to get to. I believe we are today doing the AFC West.
Absolutely. You know, we did the NFC South last week, and I remember saying that the quarterbacks that we're focused on are the guys that you'll probably see in the preseason.
Right.
Tomorrow is the Hall of Fame game.
Right.
We got some football. But, you know, for the preseason, apparently the Bucs have already announced Tom Brady's not playing. So all of those days that we had a chance to look at, we might get a chance to see that quarterback battle work its way through the preseason games and things of that nature. But at least we kind of really know now who's there, you know, and who's really a viable candidate, and, you know, the different levels of experience. We talked about so much diversity, you know, in the backup quarterback position, especially in terms of experience, you know. So you got everybody from a Joe Flacco with Super Bowls to other guys like a Josh Johnson that we're going to talk about today. I believe he's got like 13 years accrued in the NFL. So, you know, of course, you know, I don't know who has more accrued years than Tom Brady. He came in at 22 last week. So just, you know, interesting little facts and information about the different players and some of their travels, you know, how, you know, why are they still in the NFL? You know, some of them were out, some of them were on practice squads, and some of them played in some of the other leagues and all of that kind of stuff. But here they are, boom, back on a, you know, on an NFL roster, vying for a backup position as the 2022 season kicks off. I did have something I wanted to tell you though.
What's that?
Remember, I guess maybe 2 weeks or so ago, I was telling you how I had started to play online again, live, right, you know, games instead of just against the computer, which I usually do, time situations and stuff. And I told you I was playing this guy who played with the Cardinals,
right,
who literally at some point was toying with me. You know, he just, you know. So I hadn't really had a chance to play, but I did work on some things and gave some thought. And so the other day I decided, you know, that other night, evening, I decided, well, let me fire up a game, see what happens. Fire up the game, boom, here's the Cardinals. I'm like, okay. Now, I don't know these people. Again, this is out in the PlayStation.
So this is another individual that's using the Cardinals.
I don't know. Because, see, this is the thing.
But you weren't playing the game, were you?
No, I was playing I was playing online.
A person.
A person.
Okay.
The thing is, I looked at the name, and the name looked a little familiar. I'm using PlayStation 5, and apparently the numbers of PlayStation 5s out there is very limited. There was an article recently that basically on Wired magazine, they're like, look, just go ahead and use your PlayStation 4. You'll be fine for a while. Because whatever's going on with the PlayStation 5, it's hard to get. People can't get it. Christopher got mine for me for Christmas, but he had to go like stand in line overnight or something silly like that to get it, you know, because I told him when he did that, you know.
Right.
So I'll go online. It might only be 35,000 people playing, but there are less than 50 or maybe like 50 people looking to play.
Okay.
In the whole wide world of PlayStation, Madden, and all of that, 50 people looking to play a game, which means you could play the same people, you know.
Yeah. The chances are, sure.
Yeah, you know, you wouldn't think so online, but, you know, in the PlayStation 5 environment, yeah. So here I go. And here, this person, and I'm saying person because I don't know if it's a girl or a guy. It could be either one. You know, nowadays, everybody loves football. And here he goes, rolling left and rolling right again, right off the bat. But I had defenses prepared for this.
Okay.
And the next thing you know, he's rolling left and he's getting chased the heck down. About halfway, 3/4 of the way through the first quarter, I'm up 14-0.
Okay.
I'm in return interception for a touchdown. Again, he was toying with me last game. This person, I suspect. So he goes forward in his own 20+ yard line on 4th down. I stop him. And then I basically bulldoze his ass into the end zone. Approximately 3/4 of the way through the first quarter, he concedes the game. He quit. I'm like, oh yeah. This is what we live for. Concessions, you know.
That's a shame. That's terrible.
Hey, look, when you and I, our favorite running back is Gale Sayers. And one of the things I said I love about Gale Sayers is I would count the bodies that would hit the ground on a cut. He cut once and 3 people go, boom, boom, boom. I was like, that's my man.
Yeah, but quitting the game though.
Yes.
Quitting the game in the first quarter, you're not even going to attempt. You're not even going to attempt to come back. You got to at least try to make a run at the guy. And if you can't make a run, then you quit in the second half. Quit in the third quarter.
The funny thing is, if you remember correctly, Ben, I used to get, it was a pet peeve of mine. I would get pissed off when people would quit, you know? Yeah. Now it's like a badge of honor. I told myself.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Like, yeah, Dad, that's what you want. You want them to quit.
Yeah.
It's like a badge of honor. So anyway, yeah, I got back on line and I looked up and I'm seeing the Cardinals again and I'm like, ruh-roh. But know your defenses, know your plays. You gotta play the strategies. You gotta play the plan,
Yeah.
They've gone on and given Kyler that big contract. And they took the crazy little piece about him having to study film out of the contract. So that's been eliminated as a factor for him. Did
you happen to hear or read why they took it out?
Not specifically. I know that it happened after he had his press conference. And he talked about, I don't know if y'all think I could have accomplished everything that I accomplished without studying, and he reminded people like Heisman Trophy for
he was killing the media. He came back with all guns blazing on the media on that. and a lot of them, but that still, the team could have still left it in there. They put it in there for a reason. Now, did you hear or read anything about why they put it in there?
No.
Supposedly, and of course, I didn't see a whole lot about it, and I really didn't look for a whole lot about it, but supposedly he's a really big-time gamer.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Okay. Supposedly he spends so much time gaming that they felt it necessary to carve out a niche for him to do his game study.
So you think it's the gaming that be hanging out at the bar, man.
It takes up a large amount of his time is what it is.
Is he playing Madden though?
I don't know what he's playing. Probably not.
Probably not if you're spending that much time, because
right.
I know just between myself, like I'll sit down, like the standard time for a quarter on Madden, unless you change it, it's like 6 minutes.
Right.
So you play 4 quarters, you might be there for an hour, or so. And, Christopher and I, we used to play back and forth all the time. So you might play him, you go back and forth a few times, but after a while, that's it. He got on like Call of Duty on that. And I remember one night, it was like 5 hours straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're chasing down whoever they're chasing down and everything. So I'm like, dude, that's a long time to be sitting there in front of a screen just playing,
Right. But evidently that's what he does. So he's so much into it, and they're so aware of it that I guess they felt like it was necessary for them to stipulate that he carve out X amount of time per week for film study. And probably after actually discussing it with him some more, because he did sign the contract with the clause in it.
There was a question about whether that clause was supposed to have been made public. That's one thing.
Okay.
The other
Okay.
thing,
But if he signed it with the clause in it, that means he didn't fight it and he didn't big time disagree with it. And once it became public and people started talking about it, then he felt like he had to defend himself, which he did very admirably.
I guess the only thing I'm saying, and you say he signed it, first of all, I'm assuming he has attorneys, he has agents,
right?
So got past a raft of people and probably considered it insignificant. You know, some people don't understand how that stuff hits to the public, you know?
Right.
And you think it's insignificant and you think it's, you know, not going to be made public.
Right.
And then it's made.
I agree.
And it turns out to be.
And then once it becomes public, then you feel embarrassed. Yeah, I get it. And believe me, people immediately start talking about him like he was Jamarcus Russell. Okay. We're not saying this guy's a deadbeat and never looks at film, or they send him home with a tape with nothing on it. And then he brings it back the next day and they ask him, what did he think? And he says, oh, it was great. This is not that kind of situation. But he kind of took it like that because that's the way they kind of portrayed it. Like, are you kidding me? He needs this in his contract? You mean this guy doesn't study? This guy doesn't look at film? And that's not the case.
Well, let me say this, two things. Part of the critique of his press conference was that most of the things that he talked about were very individual goals, not team goals. And that's the question. Can you lift your team to the next level? You know? Then he said something about, and looking at film, he sees more than the average person, or he sees so much like he almost has to back off, like it's because he's seeing so much.
I heard him say he sees so much during games alone and minimal tape that he can decipher so much he doesn't need to look at that much. Yes. Yeah. Again, talking about his individual prowess. He's that kind of guy.
So that's, you know, so they did take it out, you know, they're moving on. You know, we'll see how that all plays out and if he can take his team to the next level. He's in the NFC West. We're taking anything to the next level. It's no joke. That's with my 49ers. But yeah, Ben, thanks for letting me share that. I got myself a concession, and I hope it was against the person who played me so well in the first game.
Let's just pretend it was.
Yes, let's just pretend it was. That would be considered a great comeback victory, though. You know what I'm saying?
I would say so.
I mean, this guy beat me by like 24 points. I did score in the last game. I just couldn't score as fast as he was scoring.
Right, but you played out the whole game, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't quit.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's not cool.
Even in a loss, and I think this is what helped me. There's things you can learn, you know?
Right.
So like, as I was exploring the different defenses that I had available to me, like those defenses that are really designed to box that quarterback in. A lot of, you know, in football, you give up something with everything that you do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's why the, you know, teams that can disguise what they're doing so well. So, you know, if you're in that zone, you look like you're in that man, and then the ball snaps, you drop into the zone and vice versa and all of that good stuff. But those defenses that are really good at containing wide are really vulnerable to runs up the middle, you know. And I think this is another thing made me suspect it was the right person. He didn't really even try to run up the middle. You know, I'm
He
thinking,
tried to do what he does best.
I think he saw me and went, it's that guy. Let's go.
Yeah, but you stopped him so quickly, and he had nothing else for you.
And, and the funny thing is, you have one or two pauses per game that you can just pause the game. Like if you had to go to the bathroom or something, like you can just pause.
Right.
So that's what happened. We're playing in the first quarter, and all of a sudden he paused the game, and I'm saying like this, okay. And I'm wondering, I'm like, did this guy kind of think about this and wait a second? This guy done found something. I better just, and just said, I'm not gonna mess with this. Because again, he defensively really didn't stop me.
Right.
And again, I got that power game with youth check that I'm running, and I'm coming out of a shotgun situation, and I've got at least 7 other formations I can go into from there. And a lot of them are I formations, power eyes, all of that kind of stuff, So, that's what you want. That's what I want when I'm setting up my offenses. I want to know that I can come out, and if you present this, your defense shows a weakness over there, I want to be able to hit that. As they say, hit them where they ain't. So
right.
That's kind of my philosophy. So that was fun. I had a chance to do that. And so much fun putting together the AFC list, the backup quarterback. Well, first of all, before we even get to the backup quarterbacks, we at least say who the starter is. And the whole starting realm for the AFC West is just an intriguing group of guys. You know what I mean? If you were to probably name your top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, would you say 3 of them might be right in the AFC West?
Maybe all 4. Maybe all 4.
Maybe all 4. You know what I'm saying? That's half the top 10 right there. So yeah, and a history lesson, a real history lesson. There's a backup who has a legacy in his family. Yes. All right, let's get ready to kick off the best job in the NFL, the AFC West. It's dawned on you.
Yeah, it just hit me.
All right, Benny, so let's look at the AFC West in our list of quarterbacks who qualify for the best job in the NFL, backup quarterbacks. Here we go. Well, this guy is the starter here for the Denver Broncos. I've already had my wife takes issue with anything that you say detrimental to a Russell Wilson, because she sings it, Russell Wilson. She just loves herself some Russell Wilson. But he's got this thing he likes to say, come on, Broncos, let's ride. And I'm like, that's got to be the corniest.
I hate it.
Do you hate it too? Let's ride. He's already had I think it was a back from the Chargers already do a let's ride meme.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I heard about it. They were saying he was kind of mocking him. So we're not the only ones that think it's corny.
We're not the only ones. All right, well, hey, look. Russell Wilson is 34 years old. He's getting to the age where, it's like me. My neighbor said I was corny because I don't have the fastest speed from Verizon. So they throw the word corny around pretty easily. When you're older, you get accused. 10 seasons accrued, 5'11", 206 out of Wisconsin. I was so surprised when I really found out that he had wound up in Wisconsin. He's like a big name there, man. Came out in 2012. in the third round, number 75 overall to the Seahawks. Now, was that finding a piece of gold deep down in the
I'd say
mind?
so. He, he started his career at NC State.
Right. I know he didn't start at Wisconsin. You're right.
Yeah, so I think he may have transferred to Wisconsin for like his senior year or something.
But
I think he wanted to get the year of Big Ten football on his resume.
Yeah, he was very successful, what I understand.
Yeah, he did well.
Did well there. He has career earnings of $181.3 plus million. $181 million. Career average per year now, $18,134,012. So because he just got that contract, and I guess because he had so much guaranteed money and all that kind of stuff, it really pushed up his average for right now, especially since he just came off of a rookie deal. So
Right.
That's a pretty big average. I don't know, Ben. I don't think I remember anyone having a bigger average than 18 million. But we'll look back as we do a summary after next week's show. He still has potential earnings of 232.3 million because he's guaranteed 172.3 million. So he's got, the future looks bright. You got 181 in the bank. You got another 232 in your future. Price of gas is not an issue. Now, Benny, I didn't realize this, but he actually has an excellent INT to TD ratio at 87 interceptions to 292 touchdowns.
Yep.
Now, if you, Ben, I brought my phone because last week when I was asked to do basic math, I struggled so righteously. But if you divide 292 by 87, that's 3.3 times plus. So there's your 3-to-1 ratio right there, big time. So that's a real good asset to take into a Broncos team that's got decent receivers, decent defense, and he's going to need that type of efficiency. 12% injury probability, probably a little up on the higher side because he's not a pocket quarterback. And he does tend to burp the baby a little bit. But that's who's starting for the Broncos. What do you got on Russell Wilson?
Well, that 3-to-1 ratio is part of his greatness. Let's face it, taking care of the football is a very important asset for a starting quarterback to have in the NFL, or actually any quarterback to have at any level of football.
Football, thank you.
You know what I'm saying? But because he's so good at, that's part of his greatness, absolutely. The 12% injury probability, especially for a guy who moves around as much as he does and who has moved around as much as he has so far in the early part of his career, is really low. That speaks to his durability. So I would say that,
excuse me. Are you saying that a guy who runs around a lot has a higher injury probability than a pocket?
This guy does.
In general, are you saying
I'm
that?
talking about Russell Wilson.
Talking about Russell? Okay.
I'm talking about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, for a guy that moves around as much as he does, has pretty much stayed serious injury free.
That is true.
Is that a different way to put it? He's had his nicks. He's been nicked up, but he's never been put out for any long length of time. So, we can't always generalize.
He was hit enough in that last year or so with Seattle that he spoke out.
But we're not talking about hit. We're not talking about hit probability. We're talking about injury probability.
Well, one follows the other usually.
He sucked it up and didn't get hurt. Get off of him. Don't make me call your wife. Russell Wilson is one hell of a quarterback, and the Denver Broncos are lucky to have him.
Okay, well, with that 12% injury probability in mind,
You're killing me.
Should he go down, he has a legacy behind him in one Brett Ripien.
Unfortunately, legacies don't always go as far as you would hope they go, as far as talent is concerned.
Is it his uncle, Mark Ripien?
I think Mark Rippen's his older brother.
No, I don't think it's his brother.
Not his brother?
No,
then he's got to be his uncle then.
Yeah, I believe it's his uncle. And this was the thing, and I'm just taking a quick look here because I don't want to screw around with the screen in front of me. But Mark Ripien was on the bench when the Washington team that needed to change their name won the Super Bowl.
He was the starter. Mark Ripien.
He won one as a starter.
Yes.
But he was on the bench when they won one with black quarterback.
Oh, with Dougie. Yeah, he's Doug's backup.
That's what I'm talking about. So even going back to there, I was, just a little bit surprised.
Yes, he is the nephew of Mark Ripien.
And Mark came out of Canada. I didn't know that about him. I didn't know a whole bunch about Mark Ripien. I do remember him. That he, but I didn't know that, for example, that he came out of Canada. And some of the things that he, was able to do in his time. So that's a heck of a legacy for one Brett Ripien. And Brett comes in to the Denver Broncos with career earnings of $1.78 million plus, career average $593,459, potential earnings of 2.3 plus million with guarantees of only 146,000. He's 26 years old. He has 2 seasons under his belt. I guess he was a RFA restricted free agent at 6'2", 210 out of Boise State. From what I understand, and I actually watched a little bit of film. I watched some film of Mark Ripien at Boise State, Benny. And I'll say one thing. A lot of them touchdowns he was throwing at Boise State, those receivers were wide open. You talk about taking the top off the defense. They was blowing by those defenses, like looking like, bam, he's hitting them. I'm not saying he's not hitting them, but it wasn't exactly tight windows he was throwing into a lot of them. And, it's a challenge, though, when you're trying to look objectively at film, especially on like a YouTube, because everything's highlights, So it's hard to see just, a quarter of a game or something like that, where you can kind of see a little more of things that he was doing. But again, undrafted free agent 2019 to the Broncos. He has 4 INTs and 2 TDs to date, and we don't know about his injury probability. Not much to say there. But if the spirit of Mark Ripien ever rises in this young man, it could be trouble.
You talk about Mark Ripien like he's a Hall of Famer or something.
He might be. Well, you know me.
He might be.
You know me. All you got to do is win the Super Bowl and bam, you're in as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, then they should put you in charge of the Hall of Pretty Good. Come on, man. Mark Ripien. Kidding me?
Well,
let's talk about Brett Ripien. Obviously, there's something that the coaching staff likes about him. He's been there 2 years. They held on to him. I'm sure the little bit of money that he's making had something to do with it. A lot easier to get rid of guys like Trevor Siemian and guys that they actually spent draft picks on and probably gave bigger contracts to. It's a lot easier to get rid of them and hang on to a guy like him rather than try to make them work. Obviously, they weren't that much better than him, or they wouldn't have let him go. So that doesn't say much for those guys. Doesn't say much for Drew Lock either, to tell you the truth. Doesn't say much for Drew Lock either, really. But Man, that's pretty much all I can say about Brett Rippon. He's been there 2 years. He's been in the room. He knows the system. And if something was to happen to Russell, they would hope that he could come in and at least run the system. How efficient he would be, there's no telling. I'm sure they got their fingers crossed that it never happens.
Yes, well, his efficiency as it stands for his INT to TD ratio is not looking good, but okay. You know, he probably came in at some weird times. And,
yeah, that's not fair. Yeah.
So I give it to him. But before we leave, let me say, Ben.
He's probably mopping up a game that Drew Lock screwed up.
You mentioned about Mark Rippon not being in the Hall of Fame. However, on June 8th, 2006, Mark Rippon was inducted into the National Polish American Sports Hall of Fame. So he's in.
I'm coming, Elizabeth. Come on, man.
He's in.
Give me a break.
Look, push come to shove, they got Josh Johnson.
Who I would go with first.
So it's a battle for the backup position.
Shouldn't be much of a battle. Josh Johnson should have him beat easily. In fact, didn't Josh Johnson play last year?
I do believe, yes, he did.
I think he got a couple games in last year.
I do believe he did. Ben, what's his real name?
Josh Johnson?
Yeah.
Joshua. Joshua Javon.
Javon Johnson.
Who did that?
Now, Joshua Javon Johnson, Ben, has career earnings of $7.8+ million. That ain't bad money.
He's been around.
Average per year, $604,624. He still has potential earnings of $6.6+ million, and he has total guarantees of $917,500. He is 36 years old. He 2023 was an unrestricted free agent. He has 11 accrued seasons under his belt. 6'3", as I said, weight 205, coming out of San Diego in 2008 in the 5th round, number 160 overall to the Buccaneers. Tampa took him. However, career-wise, he has 16 INTs to 13 touchdowns.
Yeah.
We don't know his injury probability yet. He hasn't played consistently enough, and he's not starting, so they're not focused on that right now. So, Joshua Johnson versus the legacy of a Brett Rippon. So Johnson's a legacy in and of itself.
Well, he's got 8 seasons under his belt, right? No, 11 accrued seasons, only 2 of which he never played. So that means he got some cleanup duty somewhere along the line in almost every season. So, of course, you know, when you're coming in to mop up a blowout game, or the starter gets hurt, or maybe you have to start a game here or there, it's going to be hard to really get real good interception to touchdown ratio type numbers. But I can remember some games when he was with the Buccaneers where he actually played well. It was only a couple.
It was only a couple,
but I remember Josh Johnson coming into games late and playing well. Now, since then, he's been with Cleveland, Cincinnati, Washington, the Jets, and with Baltimore last season. Of course, our guy Huntley got the backup job in Baltimore and played the most last season. But the year before that, I can remember, and I don't remember specifics, but I vaguely remember because of fantasy that Josh Johnson played and I believe won a game for the New York Jets in the 2020 season or the 2021 season. Oh yeah, he left the Jets and went to Baltimore during the season. That was weird. But he was with the Jets at the time, and he came in and won a game.
Okay.
Zach Wilson went down.
Okay.
So So he's got the prototypical size pretty much, 6'3", 205. And he's been around long enough and been in enough different quarterback rooms to have, learned a few things. I'd say, without a doubt, he is the real backup of the Denver Broncos and would get the first look if something happened to Russell Wilson. No doubt about it.
All right. Does he start in the first preseason game?
I would start him in the first preseason game. Absolutely.
Okay. We'll be looking
Absolutely.
for that. We'll be looking for that. Let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. The starter, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, has an interesting financial summary. Career earnings of 47.3 plus million so far, averaging 9.4 million, with potential earnings of $491.3 million. So the future is bright. You're gonna need some shades. He got 79.5 plus million in total guarantees. Benny, how do you like this? Now see, when you come in and you're not the starter of the year, that first year, you show them something interesting, they move you from backup to starter. 37 INTs to 137 touchdowns. So that would say that 137 divided by 37, that's 3.7. He's almost at a 4-to-1 interception to touchdown ratio there. On your point about Josh Johnson, if Josh Johnson had anything like that type of production or efficiency when he did come in, he wouldn't be the backup for all these years. So that's
nor would any other backup.
You're right. You're right. That's how you move from backup to starter. 16% entry probability. Again, that mobile guy. And you remember when we did the trace of the Super Bowl where they played the Buccaneers, and how illustrative it was when you looked at Tom Brady, who basically all of his little traces, of where he ran to made it look like one dot. He didn't really run anywhere. And Patrick Mahomes had trails going all over the place. It was just such an extreme difference. But he doesn't get hurt a lot. He's a pretty sturdy young man, at 16% injury probability there. So what you got on Mr., as my man says on the show, Mr. Mahomes boy?
To me, my personal knock on Mahomes is, yeah, he's really mobile, which is a good thing, but he moves a little bit too much. I think he's mobile to the excess. I believe that he rolls and scrambles sometimes when he really shouldn't or doesn't have to. That may not bode well for him in the future. That's when I start agreeing with you that these mobile guys put themselves in the I'm sorry.
In danger.
In danger. Thank you. Put themselves in danger of getting injured. Peril. Peril's a good word. But obviously, 37 interceptions to 137 touchdowns lets you know that he was well scouted and was drafted with confidence that he'd be able to move into this starting lineup and succeed right away, as long as he could get the mental part and the professional part of the game down, which he obviously has. Again, Patrick Mahomes is the type of quarterback where you would hope that the backup would have some similar attributes, but I don't know that that's the case. Who is Patrick Mahomes' backup?
Who is Patrick Mahomes' backup? You get good at this, Benny. I'll tell you. One Chad Henne.
Okay.
Who was getting some positive conversation in practice there for all, you know, everybody.
As he should. He's a veteran.
Yeah, I think we have a winner so far on the accrued seasons here. Chad Henne with career earnings of $38.5+ million. What a guy. Career average per year, 2.753936. $2.7+ million. Potential earnings of another $39.6 million. Really? With guarantees of $24.1 million. Really? Chad Henne? 37 years old, 14 accrued seasons, 6'3", 230 out of Michigan. In the 2008 draft, the second round, number 57 overall to the Dolphins. Now, as with Josh Johnson, that interception to touchdown ratio leaves a lot to be desired at 63 interceptions to 60 touchdowns. Again, not a number for injury probability. Chad Henne.
He's making good money. He was his second round pick. I'm sure that he was expected to be a starter at some point or another when the Dolphins drafted him. Unfortunately, things didn't work out that way, but he's been able to hang around for 14 accrued seasons, mostly with the Dolphins, also with the Jags, which basically makes him a professional backup. He knows his way around the quarterback room, obviously. He knows his way around film study and how to be a professional, which makes him a valuable backup to any young quarterback just coming in. If nothing else, those are the pluses that he would bring to the job, which are necessary pluses for a young quarterback. So he's a good guy to have around for Patrick Mahomes, I'm sure.
Now, you've seen him play, right?
Yes.
How's his mobility compared to Mahomes?
It's nothing like it.
Nothing like it. So
he's a pocket passer.
All right. So you got two different situations.
Right.
I have that.
Right.
All right. Well, there you go. Let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr, starting for the Raiders, had a very tumultuous 2021 season relative to all the things going on around the Raiders organization. And he kept his head and played football and did a pretty good job, I thought, all things considered relative to that. It definitely stamped him as a leader. He has career earnings of $118+ million, averaging $14.7+ million, with another $251 million plus in potential earnings. Total guarantees of $68.2 million. Mr. Derek Carr has 85 INTs to 193 touchdowns. So you figure 2 times 80 is 160. So he's in that 2+ range, not exactly 3+. And he's got a 36% injury probability. I don't know. We were looking at the money spent on the offensive lines and stuff. Do you remember where the Raiders? I don't know where the Raiders came.
I don't really remember, but they're not terrible.
They're not terrible. And they do have a run game.
Yes, they do.
Now that they have Devontae Adams from the Packers, it's going to be very interesting to watch how they work. Now, what do you have on Derek Carr?
Well, the couple of things I'll say about Derek Carr, number one is, I think what he did last season in lieu of the John Gruden mess was miraculous. I mean, he really kept that locker room together. A lot of kudos should go also to the head coach who took over, but Derek Carr pretty much kept the players straight. And I'm sure it wasn't just him by himself. I'm sure there were other veteran players, but him being the starting quarterback, I think he did really, really well. He was questioned about it quite a bit in a lot of his post-game conferences and news media things going on during the week, going into games, and he was able to keep everything under control, not make any crazy statements to blow it up any more than it already was. And he did an excellent job of that. Derek Carr, I think, is a top-notch quarterback at this point. Adding Devontae Adams to the mix for him, we'll see how much that elevates his game. I would have to assume that it would elevate his game, though, being as how he pretty much has been working with Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller pretty much as his 1-2 punch. I love Renfrow, but Renfrow's not a number one. Yet Derek Carr made it work somehow and had really good numbers. So adding Devontae Adams to the mix on this offense still remains to be seen, but I think it's going to do wonders for the Raiders.
All right. Doing wonders for the Raiders. Now, if Derek Carr goes down, we have Jarrett Stidham sitting in the wings, waiting to handle some business. Jarrett Stidham has career earnings of $2.6+ million. He has an average per year of $885,000+, which to me is that number that I was mentioning when I was talking to the Uber driver. And then that's, we saw that number a lot,
Right.
We looked at backups in that area. He can make another $3.6 million in potential earnings, and he has guarantees of $1.2+ million, close to $1.3 million. He's 26 in his third season, 3 accrued seasons. He's 6'3", 215 out of Auburn. Came in the 2019 draft in round 4, number 33 overall to the Patriots. So you assume he's been well coached, going into the Patriot organization, now with the Raiders. However, 4 INTs to 2 touchdowns, injury probability of X%, we don't know, hasn't played enough to have it be a part of his information. So what do you like about Mr. Derek Carr? I'm sorry, about Mr. Jarrett Stidham.
He's young. He went to Auburn, and he's been coached for 2 years by Bill Belichick. That's it.
That's it.
That's all I got for you.
Yeah, God.
Who's the other backup at the Raiders?
Before we go, I don't know if you remember us having these conversations where I've criticized the quality of backup quarterbacks. And, we've had some energetic conversations about that. But I do, and you also know that I think that the backup quarterback position needs to be valued more highly. The amount of discrepancy that we're seeing between the starters and the backups, it reminds me of when people complain about CEOs of major corporations and how much they make compared to their workers who work for them. And they're like, yeah, the CEO made 400 times the amount of money than the average worker in his company. And it's looking like that now with these backups, except for a few of these guys who've been around a long time. They've got great career earnings and everything. But
it just hit me.
But
Jarrett Stidham. The Patriots just traded Jarrett Stidham to the Raiders this offseason.
Right.
This offseason? Who's the new head coach with the Raiders? Josh McDaniels. The offensive coordinator of the Patriots. Boom. Well, boom, yes, but again, is this a boom like, the old boys network working to keep guys? No, this is
qualified.
This is a backup quarterback.
Trust
a backup quarterback who's familiar with their offense.
That's what I'm saying. Is this just somebody he knows is familiar with what he's doing and he thinks that'll be the best way to go? I
Yeah.
don't know, Benny. I don't know. I don't remember seeing Jarrett Stidham do anything that made me go, wow, that guy looks good.
You
So,
know, when we talk about the value, and you say it's a position that should be valued more, some teams do value it more and some teams don't. And I think a lot of that has to do with who the starter is and also the position of the team. Everybody says at the beginning of the season, they all have the same goal, but they know that's not true. Some teams are going to save a couple dollars on a position here or there because they know that paying a lot for a quality backup is not going to probably serve them well in their pocketbooks. It's a business. That's just how it is, you know? It's just how it is. Not every team in the NFL is not going to go all out to get the number one best suited, best backup they can possibly find. They're just not going to do it. Some teams are going to get the cheapest guy. Some teams are going to get the guy whose best asset is that he knows the offense. Some teams are going to get the best guy because he's been around for a while and he can teach a young starter how to be a professional. So everybody's got their own different reasons that guy is valuable to them. But they don't always have the same reason that we look at first. If the starter goes down, what is this guy going to do? We look at that first as fans. As businesses, the teams don't look at that first. They just don't.
okay, you say so.
What do you mean if I say so? What other answer could there be? You see the discrepancy. Can you explain it?
You know something? No, I can't really explain it. I mean, I'm saying that's your thesis. Okay, I'm not rejecting it because I don't have a contending thesis. I just think that there's a discrepancy. Now, why that discrepancy is there? That's
I just
that's
told
for
you.
geniuses like you to come up with.
Geniuses like
Let's move on. Okay, Benny. So you wanted to know the next person behind Mr. Stidham, former 49er backup quarterback Nick the Quick Mullins, as I used to call him. Nick Mullins is there now with the Raiders. And let's look at Mr. Mullins now. Career earnings of $2.9, almost $3 million, just under $600,000 on the career average per year at $594 plus $1,000. He still has 3.8, almost 3.9 million in potential earnings. He's had 1.2 million plus in total guarantees. He's now 27 years old with 4 accrued seasons under his belt. At 6'1", 187, he came out of Southern Miss in 2017 as an undrafted free agent to the 49ers.
broke Brett Favre college records.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I just remember him having games, and I started calling him Nick the Quick, and I was like, man, this guy looks like he can really, he has some potential. However, 22 INTs to 26 TDs, he belied his potential, which is why he wound up elsewhere. He has the next percentage. We don't know his injury probability at this point. So you like Nick Mullins.
I like Nick Mullins.
Love Nick Mullins.
I like Nick Mullins purely for the fact that he's got some real game action under his belt. Okay? He's not a backup that's been sitting around, undrafted free agent, sitting around for 2 years, just learning the game and hasn't been under fire. Okay, this guy's been under fire. So you got to give him some credit for that. Yeah, he threw 22 interceptions. He also threw 26 touchdowns. What the heck, Now, I don't know exactly when he got over to the Raiders. I don't know, was he on their roster last year or did they just bring him in?
No,
Check that for me.
He wound up someplace else in the meantime. So he
Okay,
didn't go from Niners
because
to Raiders.
so we got a guy who's sort of kind of a veteran, especially considering he's got game action, as opposed to a guy like Stidham who has little to no game action and has only been in the league for a couple seasons, but knows the system of the offense of the head coach. So this could actually be a real competition for the backup.
Yes,
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see who starts the preseason games.
Hey, guess which team we missed that Mr. Mullins was on? The Philadelphia Eagles.
Right, he did play a season for the Eagles, yes. I don't think he got any game action.
No. As a matter of fact, that was around the time when they had just brought in Jaguar quarterback.
Gardner Minshew.
Minshew, I think so.
Right.
He wasn't going to beat out Minshew, who played really well when he got a chance to play. All right, so that's the backup situation for the Raiders. We expect to see quarterback competition for that backup spot between the sympathetic favorite of Jarrett Stidham.
Sympathetic favorite. Sympathetic. Well, possibly the head coach favorite.
Well, that's why
I'm sure he went and got him.
That's
I'm sure.
talking.
Yeah, I'm sure he went and got him.
That's what I'm saying.
Belichick said, "Yo, hook me up, bro. At least let me have him."
Versus the guy with real live action under his belt. So we'll be looking at some preseason games to see how that all works out. The preseason has gotten completely way more interesting for me since we've been doing this thing. I'm looking to see these guys now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they run this, knowing that they only have 3 games to work with and knowing that you want to get some starters into one of those games. I can only guess that the first game you probably won't see any starters because you got to get the guys in so you can figure out how you're going to do your cut downs. Possibly see a quarter of some starters in the second game. I'm guessing, I don't know, in the second game. And then the third game is, everybody else. They've already announced several starters who are not going to touch the preseason field at all, which I don't blame them.
And then you have what we call the second preseason, which is the first quarter or so of the regular season when everybody's actually playing together for the real first time.
Right, which will probably develop very similarly to the way it did last year with COVID. Remember we said that we always called it the second half of the preseason, but it was really, really like a preseason because COVID cut the preseason games.
Completely, yeah.
Again, it's going to kind of be like that.
Okay. Well, you got an extra game to get your act together nowadays. But Nick Mullins, there you go. We'll be looking to see what Nick Mullins does in the preseason. All right, Benny. I know you like the Buffalo Bills. Closest thing to your quarterback with the Buffalo Bills is probably Mr. Justin Herbert. Height, mobility, capability. We're talking about the Chargers and what they're going to be doing. Justin Herbert comes in with career earnings of 19.3 plus million. He had a nice rookie contract. Career average per year of 9.6 plus million with potential earnings of 26.5 plus million and that same amount in total guarantees. He actually received 17.5 million as a lump sum payment and in 2020, and his largest cap number so far has only been 8.4 million. So he's a low cap guy, which means that they can put some talent around him and compete in one of the toughest divisions out there. He has 25 INTs to 69 touchdowns. Let me see. A 3 ratio would be 75 touchdowns. So he ain't far off of it for a young fella there Injury probability, 15%. Starting to see a trend on these mobile quarterbacks in terms of injury probability, I would say. They're looking around, they all have around the same numbers, that 12 to 15% number. So, Justin Herbert, what do you like? What do you don't like?
You know, we toss around some of these descriptions a little bit. I wouldn't consider Justin Herbert a mobile quarterback. I would call Justin Herbert a young quarterback with good mobility, if that makes sense. Okay. He is by no means a runner. However, he can get you a first down on the ground. He's got good size, he's got decent speed, and he knows when to get down. Okay. Other than that, I shudder to think of him as a mobile quarterback, which is kind of the term for a running quarterback, sort of, kind of. So I don't want to pigeonhole him there. But other than that, he's obviously got the arm and the smarts to be a long-time stud in the NFL. Justin Herbert is arguably a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the league at this moment.
So, Benny, any last words on Justin Herbert?
Just that he's a stud fantasy player. He's a keeper on one of my teams, and he's a guy that I covet in fantasy for sure, because he puts up numbers.
Covet in fantasy.
Yes.
You know, something that's interesting to say that, because, you know, when Madden, I'm pretty much always play with the Niners. So I get to see, you know, what the other teams' offenses can do, but it's mainly run by the computer. I haven't actually tried. It gets interesting when you try to play with other teams and that mix of talent and capabilities and stuff and all the little adjustments that you have to make to run the same play, you know, with a completely different set, you know, of receivers and things like that. So I can imagine Justin Herbert is going to bring you some points, you know, this year. So, well, if he can't bring you any points, next up in line is Chase Daniel. I'm sure he's one of your favorites from way back in the day.
Gotta love Chase Daniel, professional backup.
Chase Daniel, hold on here. Let me wipe my eyes, because these numbers are eye-popping. As a backup quarterback, has career earnings of $41,302,217. $41 million, Benny. Career average 3.1 plus million, potential earnings of another 36.4 million. So Chase Daniels could get paid. He's got 30 plus million in guarantees. He's 36 years old. Again, 13 accrued seasons. He's 6 foot, 225 out of Missouri. An undrafted free agent in 2009 to the Commanders, who were known back then as the Washington team that needed to change their name, as we always used to say. Chase Daniels is a 41 million. He's got 7 INTs to 8 TDs for his career. And again, an X% in terms of injury probability.
Wow.
Wow, that's right.
The fact that this guy's been around almost 10 years, well, yeah.
13 accrued
seasons, and has only thrown 8 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions tells me that he's probably a really smart guy.
Pretty smart enough to make $41 million.
He's valuable enough to make that much money for what he does in that quarterback room. He's probably has a really good understanding of multiple offenses, has a really good understanding of how to be a professional, is probably a really good mentor for younger guys. I mean, these are all pluses and things that you look for in a backup, besides the fact, can the dude actually play? And he's been valuable enough to quite a few teams that he's been able to keep a job every season. Let's see. When he came in with Washington, he's been with New Orleans, Kansas City, he's been with the Eagles, he's been with New Orleans again. I believe he backed up Drew Brees in the Super Bowl win, so he's got a ring. He's played for the Bears, the Lions, and now the Chargers. And I'm sure he's being a great mentor and help in the quarterback room for a young guy like Justin Herbert. So yeah, Chase Daniels has value and he's being paid for it. Greatest job in the NFL.
What a guy. What a guy. You know, average per year, 3.1 million. Let's just say it, $3,177,094 on average every year. So, all right, Benny, that's what you got with the Chargers there. Chase Daniels. If he goes down.
Oh, no, not the stick.
The stick. Easton Stick is waiting in the wings. This is one of the better names in the NFL. Easton Stick. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Well, Easton Stick has career earnings of 2.2, almost 2.3 million plus. Career average per year, $766,207, close to that $800,000 that we talked about. Potential earnings of 3.2 plus million with guarantees of $278,620. Largest cash payment and largest cap number. Cash payment came in $965,000. And his largest cap hit was $1 million, which was 2022. Age 27, has 3 accrued seasons. He's 6'2", 220 out of North Dakota State in the 2019 draft. Round 5, number 166 overall, right there at the Chargers. They chose him. He's there. He doesn't have any INTs, any TDs, and he has no injury probability prediction at this particular point. But he's got the greatest name that you can have. Easton Stick.
As the young guys say, I can't front. I know nothing about Easton Stick.
Nothing about Easton Stick. Well, I hate to stick with that.
Wait. North Dakota State. Did Trey Lance and Wentz go to North Dakota State or South Dakota State?
Trey Lance, he says, did he go to North Dakota? I think he went to North Dakota State, to be quite honest.
Okay, so they've got a little bit of a quarterback thing going on there, right?
Well, let's take a quick look.
Wentz, Lance?
Yes, Trey Lance played football at North Dakota State.
And so did Carson Wentz.
Yes, he did.
And so did Easton Stick.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a college team, although it's not a high Division I team, they throw the ball quite a bit, and they kind of have a little throwing the ball legacy going on there. So that probably helped him out a bit.
That probably did, and that's a connection that I had not made, considering he came out with my Niners. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all right.
It helps sometimes when you come out of a pro offense in college.
I'm sure. And I think I've said to you that sometimes I wonder why a college coach would run anything but, considering that I would think you want to give your players the best chance to make it to the next level. And I think that does, but what can I tell you? Some of these guys came out of high school or whatever, and their roots are.
You got all 4- and 5-star athletes, you can do that. When you got 3-star athletes and 2-star athletes and you want to win, you tailor to your talent.
Okay, I hear you, Coach. I hear you. All right, Easton Stick at almost $2.3 million. What can I tell you? He's probably sitting back and watching Trey Lance to see what goes on with Trey. All right, Benny, that wraps up the AFC West. Next week wraps up the series. We wrap it up with the West. That's the best.
Was the best.
Oh, I knew you was going to come back with that.
Russell's gone. You lost Russell.
That took us to second place to the AFC, eh?
Yeah.
Well, you know.
And Jimmy.
We shall see, because the backup quarterback situation in Seattle is going to be real interesting. Very interesting. They talked about that a little bit in some of the camp discussion they had this week. So
the starting situation is interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I should be saying. The starting situation is interesting, absolutely, which makes the backup situation interesting.
Yeah, it's all fluid up there.
I tell you, you know.
Preseason games are going to be extremely important for this team, for the Seahawks.
Yeah. They can't hold their starter. They can't hold that. At least I don't think they would. Now, if they held Drew Lock out, that would be like mind blowing. Like, really?
They have to play him, and they have to play what's his face too.
Yeah. So, what's his face? He said we'll find out who what's his face is next week. Again, this is Ben and Barry on football with the series, The Best Job in the NFL, Backup Quarterback. Make sure that you visit our YouTube channel for all of the other divisions that we've already covered. Because again, next week finishes it out with the NFC West.
Yeah, I can't do that to my man. It's Geno Smith, but I'm not hearing good things. I'm not hearing good things at all about their camp.
Geno Smith has always been somebody that I had big questions about.
He's still fighting the battle of not being a professional backup. This is definitely his
last. Accept your fate. That's what you're saying, Danny. Accept it.
This is his last opportunity. Because let's face it, coming in, nobody wants to be a backup. But you kind of fall into it, and after a while, you're like, okay, this is it for me. If I'm going to stay in the NFL and I'm going to keep making good money, I'm going to be a backup, and I'm going to be the best backup I can be. Geno's got this one last opportunity to be a starter. This is it. This is it for him, man. If he doesn't get a year as a starter under his belt here, he's done.
Done completely in the NFL?
I think he could survive as a backup somewhere, because it's not like he can't throw.
When you go back to with the Jets,
I know, it's not good.
And you think about, because I kept thinking to myself, he can't be the sharpest tack in the box, you know? And I hate to say that about a guy like that, you know, but that was my question coming out of his situation there. And, you know, so that kind of has like followed him no matter where he goes. So to me, this is interesting to see, can he beat out a Drew Lock? Because he's still there. He didn't get cut.
Bro, if he can't beat out, if Drew Lock ends up being the starter, then he will stay there probably as the backup, simply because he's been there. He studied at the knee of Russell Wilson. He knows the offense. That's it. And he's still young enough and injury-free enough to be looked at as somebody that can come in an emergency situation. But other than that, You can't let Drew Lock beat you out, bro. You can't. You just can't do it.
All right, there we go. Wraps it up that series. Okay, Benny. Let's hit the social media and talk about a few of the things. This has been one eventful week. So we were talking about those Seahawks. Let's give some kudos to DK Metcalf, who got a 3-year, $72 million extension. Should have been a 49er, as far as I was concerned. Really? How many disagreements do I have with my team, but I'm always there with them? I'm like, no, take that guy, take that guy. Anyway, DK Metcalf now, and he's changed his hair to another color. I think he's gone blonde or something silly like that. But long story short, congratulations to an amazing athlete.
Didn't Tyler Lockett just sign a new contract not that long ago? I think he did. Yeah.
Tyler Lockett with the Seahawks.
Yeah. And what I'm about to say may lead into something else that we're about to talk about. I don't know in what order you want to go through our page here, but I believe that if the Seahawks don't make some kind of a quarterback move other than Geno Smith and Drew Lock before the season begins, that they're tanking.
Tanking?
They're tanking for next year's draft.
You use that word.
Yep.
You use
They paid DK and Tyler to stay. They lost their starting running back because of head injuries and neck injuries, but they've got Rashad Penny, who's just about ready to come into his own anyway as a running back. Those are very important skill position players that they're going to need for their future, but they're not going anywhere without a quarterback. And this next draft, 2023 draft, is loaded with what looks to be pretty good quarterbacks. I think they're going to tank this season.
They do have some talent coming in at quarterback.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
So they had to lock up. Lockett, Metcalf. They have to lock those guys up. So they'll be ready when they pick their new quarterback next year.
All righty. Is that Mitchell Trubisky?
Yep.
With one of the new Guardian caps over his helmet. Wanted to mention this. It's been talked about on media where in practices, some teams, it was mandated by the league that linemen, I believe, and linebackers wear them in practice. It's supposed to reduce that head push or that concussion type hit by another 20% over top of the helmet. So since their heads are rattling back and forth so much in practice, it really made sense to have that additional protection. And I think that other than it looking a little silly, the players have pretty much said, okay, well, if it's going to further protect me, what the heck, I'll do it. But that is the Guardian cap that goes over the traditional football helmet with its waffle design, meant to absorb impact. So Ben and Barry on Football Facebook page, you can read more about the Guardian caps. You guys, you remember when we were playing and who was it on our D-line used to wear like a special cushion?
Chucky Butler.
Chucky B. Crazy as he was, he wasn't crazy. So crazy he didn't wear something to protect his head. What did he? That's my man. All right. So they did pull the clause, the film study clause, out on Kyler Murray. And then he comes down with COVID. And I always mention to people, I always say, I look at prevalence of the disease when I see that these guys, are popping up positive. And in many cases, they're not even showing any symptoms. So that just means that they're getting tested on a regular basis.
Right.
And so you then take that and extrapolate it out into the public where people are not getting tested on a regular basis. And they're saying the amount that we are actually aware of in terms of the amount of COVID that's out there spreading around is actually a small percentage of what it really is.
Right.
So it's truly out there. They're coming up with a new, another vaccination in the fall, which will target some of the, what do you call it?
Some of those new strains?
Or new strains, yeah, of the disease. But this disease is constantly evolving, as is the flu. That's like when they tell you, when you take the flu shot, it's only good for about half the flus that are out there. So it is what it is. But in any event, they pulled it. And as we talked about earlier in the show, Kyler apparently is known for being a video guy. How you like this alternative helmet, Benny?
That's terrible. That is horrible. Is that supposed to be funny? Is that supposed to be funny? I guess it is. I'm laughing. Yo, Deshaun's never going to live this down ever. You know that, right? This is going to be hanging over his head forever.
I don't know. We have an article that we'll talk about a little bit of that a little later on as we continue to scroll through. Ben, I think I had heard this before, but I wasn't quite totally aware that Ndamukong Suh and Warren Buffett are like buddies.
Okay.
And as it says here, Suh sees real estate as the great equalizer, as an equalizer for wealth building. And he's actually doing some pretty good entrepreneurial things.
Okay.
So, I always think about Suh stepping on people's hands when he was with the Lions and stuff. I was like, who is that guy? He's mean, nasty.
Yeah, that dude's kind of wild.
Can you imagine a fight between Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald? Jeez, that'd be like one of those big WWF type battles.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
That'd be a crazy battle. But obviously, the man's smart. So we did want to say congrats to Osiris Mitchell going from the USFL to the NFL with the Green Bay Packers.
I remembered you talking about this guy, number one, because his last name is Mitchell. Number two, because he played for the Stallions, who were the champions. And
number three, went to Christopher's team. Went my son's.
Yeah, right. So,
Mitchell.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, that's great. And we were kind of hoping to see a good number of USFL guys getting jobs or at least getting looks. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, we see a steady stream.
He's a wide receiver, right?
I do believe.
Okay.
Yes, USF champion wide receiver.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's good.
Absolutely.
Not only you get a look in the NFL, but you go work with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. But if he can't start, Ben, he doesn't get the playing time. He doesn't want to be no, I'm just joking. I'm joking about my Uber driver last week.
This guy. Well, guess what? All he got to do is be on top of his game. He's got a shot.
Yeah,
it's not like they got a bunch of great receivers running around up there.
Yeah, this is a good place to be right now.
Yeah, that's right.
With the tremendous void left out by Devontae Adams there. Who's going to step up? Who's going to be second? Who's going to be third? Who's going to be fourth when they come out in the full wide receiver set?
Right.
Could Osiris
and Dallas too.
Oh,
I just went down in Dallas. And although everybody was trying to make a big deal of it, and Jerry Jones was pretty much saying, hey, it's no big deal. I kind of get where he was coming from. Let's face it, James Washington was basically not a fill-in, a depth type guy. Okay, it's not like he was going to get a lot of playing time. CeeDee Lamb is the number one there, and they expect Gallup to be back to full strength before midseason. But the fact that Gallup probably won't be ready at the beginning of the season, that's when they needed the James Washington guy, and he's pretty much gone for the season now. Wow. So yeah, they're going to have to bring somebody else in. Somebody.
It's amazing. You're protecting a lot of your players from the preseason games, but man, the preseason practices.
Yeah, when you lose depth type players, that really hurts you because you got to field a team. It's not like you can say, oh, we don't want to play in the preseason game, let's skip it. You got to play. You know what I mean? So you got to play. You got to put people out there.
Well, and you have to put people out there on schedule. We have this on Ben and Barry on Football's Facebook page. This is the cut down schedule. So Tuesdays are going to be terrible starting the 16th of August, where you have to go from 90 to 85 players. Then the following Tuesday, August 23rd, from 85 to 80 players.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, August 30th, Bloody Tuesday, you got to go from 80 to the required 53-man roster.
That's right. That's really fast considering there's only 3 preseason games. They gotta really make some decisions.
Absolutely. So it says teams don't have to follow the pattern exactly. Some teams will surely go under the maximum number as the offseason rolls in. So there might be some additional opportunities depending on who shows, who doesn't show in these cut down days for some of those USFL players to maybe, be able to sneak in there, maybe at least hit the practice squad or something like that. So, shoot, man, practice squad's making 6 figures, still making more than the USFL. So that's not bad at all. All right. Let's just talk for a minute about Debo. Debo got his contract.
I kind of thought this would happen before the season started. I knew they wouldn't want to go into the new season without getting this finalized after all the noise and all the I want to be traded and all, you know what I mean? I really don't believe he wanted to be traded at all. I believe that he just said that to kind of draw a line in the sand, like, come on, y'all, let's get this done. Because let's face it, after he made his statement, he never really pushed it. He showed up to camp. He didn't bellyache. He didn't complain. I mean, if that's the way to do it, that's the way to do it, And I think they made a serious effort to get it done, and they got it done. So that's great. And also, I believe he's got a lot of clauses in the contract, performance-based stuff, where if in fact he does have a lot of rushing yards, if he eclipses a certain number of rushing yards, he will get a bonus. And it's not a small bonus. He's got some big bonuses. So if he has X number of carries, he gets a bonus. He gets X number of rushing yards, he gets a bonus. He gets X number of rushing touchdowns, he gets a bonus. So you won't hear him talking about, I'm a wide receiver. I don't want to be running all those plays like that. Oh, yeah. He'll do anything they ask him now. He'll do anything they ask him because he gets a bonus for all of that. All of it. And the numbers that I saw for him to get the bonus money are very close to the numbers that he already achieved last season. It's all doable.
It's funny how teams are. Sometimes they're like, do I pay this guy a bonus or I don't go ahead and use my backup running backs, who they have plenty of? They're good. Some of them are really
Let's remember
bad.
who we're talking about. Let's remember who we're talking about.
Well, I know who we're talking about.
We're talking about your team.
I know.
We're not talking about the Miami Dolphins.
What do you mean? Because Mostert is gone? Mostert?
No. I'm talking about teams that run their team with integrity and try to win games and have the possibility of getting to a Super Bowl. Teams like that don't do those kind of things.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. We shall see. But the bottom line is, again, you can use him as a wide receiver, and you got the backups as far as you have the running backs as far as I'm concerned, where you shouldn't have to run him too much. It's always nice to do one of those little.
What is too much?
Well, I think what he thought last year was too much.
Who thought last year was too much?
Debo did.
He did?
Yeah, he
Then why'd he sign the contract?
Again, that's a big money contract, okay? He's willing to do whatever it takes. You know, I'm not saying he's not willing to do it. But what I'm saying to you is he felt, you know, running the hits that running backs take and that they're used to taking, wide receivers aren't used to taking that.
Yeah, so why would you talk about it and then say, but I'm willing to do it again? That was too much. I ran too much. I took too many hits, but I'm willing to do it again. What does that mean?
Well, what that means is he's willing to do it again.
It means he's willing to do it again.
Yeah.
All right, then. And he's going to get paid for it.
But what I don't know is if they're going to do it again. And they do have a different offensive coordinator this year. So he might be used. Again, I'm not saying they're not going to run him. I'm just saying they might not run him in the same way that they did last year. So we shall see. But I'm glad he's with us. Welcome. And welcome to your new contract. I'm glad you're still with the Niners. Congratulations to Hines Ward as he takes over as head coach for San Antonio in the up-and-coming XFL. So there's a Hall of Famer for you right there, associated with the XFL team. What is the XFL? What's San Antonio? Are they the Marauders or the Stallions?
I don't know, man. I can't keep up with these team names.
But congratulations to Hines Ward. So that brings some additional credibility, don't you think?
Hall of Famer, sure.
All right, let's go to the news of one of the big news items of the week, if not the biggest. You had your judgment that came in on the Deshaun Watson situation. Before the judgment came in, the NFLPA issued this statement, and this is a copy that we brought off of Twitter. And that last line is what I saw that really I thought was very interesting. It says Deshaun and the NFLPA will stand by her ruling, and we call on the NFL to do the same.
Right.
Because 6 games rather, is what the ruling wound up being. I'm getting some different reactions from different media people. I'll say personally, I think that this is too light of a punishment. The NFL apparently wanted a year.
You're saying that?
Yeah, I'm saying personally.
Okay.
The NFL wanted a year, and I read so much as much as I could about the thinking behind the decision by the judge. And you and I talked about this judge early on. We thought maybe she would be more, what's the word I'm looking for? She would have more of a punishment because A, she was a woman, and B, she had this judicial background,
right,
which I believe was probably more on the criminal side than the civil side.
Right.
And civil so much different. Again, criminal comes with, the idea that, beyond a reasonable doubt. And apparently the Houston police thought there was enough reasonable doubt. They didn't charge Deshaun with any criminal scenarios. Civil is a preponderance of evidence. The evidence that was handed to the judge included only 4 cases. It was almost 30 plus cases in total.
But
So
none of that was considered.
Why would, yeah, because she considered what they gave her. She followed what judges do. She took the evidence that they gave her, what was in front of her, and she also followed precedent. So when she looked back at precedent at situations like Ray Rice, who actually committed violence against a woman and it got caught on camera, she's saying what stood out for Deshaun, and she's saying there was no violence.
Right.
Again, but she did call it sexual assault. So
now, sexual misconduct.
No, she said assault.
She said assault?
She did say assault. And the problem is that assault is not really defined in the contract or by the NFL. So now you're getting into that. It's, again, this isn't an actual legal situation. The law or the rules that she's going by are the NFL's rules.
Right.
So that's the rules that she's going by, not, what's going, what law prevails in this situation. So apparently, no violence, no real description of assault, and a precedent of no more than 6 games when you actually had violent assaults, and you only had about 4 out of potentially 30 complainants. That's what she came up with. If the NFL decides, I'll finish here, decides they want to push the, for more, then you have the situation that comes up where they're pretty much assured that the union and Deshaun is going to take this to an actual federal court of law.
Right, which the NFL has the right to do. They can appeal this.
They can appeal it. And I think they have until tomorrow to get that done. They only have 2 or 3 days.
Okay. So if she calls it sexual assault, but considers it nonviolent sexual assault, to me, with my lack of knowledge of the law, that muddies the waters of the word assault. First off, probably does for a lot of people. The fact that she only did the 4 cases that's what they gave her. I can't even consider the other 30. Besides that, a bunch of them settled, boom, bang. You know what I mean? She shouldn't have to consider them, shouldn't consider them at all. Not even consider the fact that, well, there were 30, but now only got 4. Nah, they're out. I was surprised at 6. I thought if he got cut any kind of a break, it would be 8. I said, if it's not going to be a whole year, it's going to be 8, which is basically half a season. So 6, Browns fans should be ecstatic.
I actually saw some, they walked around at camp and talked to some Browns fans, and they were surprisingly supportive. I was surprised, they were like, okay, cool. Bro,
it's Cleveland. Cleveland ain't known for winners.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You got a situation there, where the people are like, oh, okay. And the other thing was, apparently the pattern of behavior was like really, this is, I think, what the NFL is having a problem with. He had such a pattern. Also, apparently in this ruling, he has to get any further massage therapy from team approved.
It has to be from the team, right?
Team approved.
He cannot
personnel.
Go outside.
Well, unless the team approves it outside. Team approved. Now, if they might have a external contractor.
Which would link the team with any misdoing.
Well, the team also did get sued. Well, not them.
The Texans.
But yes, And the one thing I thought was, I think it was Mina Kimes, it was, again, one of my personal favorite. I really like Mina. She was like, I wonder how the new masseuse people are going to feel about this, because, one of the things, for example, he trolled the like Instagram and stuff looking for these women and, brought them in. And then it was always a hurry. And then it was, apparently they normally, if you're going to be on the table, they put a sheet over you. He insisted it be a towel. And apparently he insisted it be a towel that he brought. And apparently the towel is like teeny tiny. Yeah.
It was a washcloth.
You know what I mean? And he's, getting his
He's
job.
like, where's your towel? He's like, here it is.
You know what I'm saying? Get the little hand towel.
I'm sorry. It's not funny.
It's really not in a way, but in a way it's just something pathetic and it is human. Yeah.
It's a handkerchief. Oh, this guy.
Yeah. So apparently this pattern of behavior was not really taken as seriously by the judge. And again, with only 4 cases, the pattern was limited as from what she found. So anywho, it's going to be interesting to see. The other cool thing that came up is whether or not they want to the NFL wants to make its decision before the Hall of Fame game tomorrow or not.
Oh, wow.
Whether they want this thing hanging over the Hall of Fame game.
I think they're going to let it go, man. I think they're going to let it go.
Probably not good to poke the bear right now. Just go.
Yeah.
You mean, do you think that they're not going to challenge it?
I don't think they're going to challenge it.
Okay. All right. Well, they agreed to this judge. The one thing, and it's interesting because this is only the first case. So what they learned from this case is going to be instrumental, I believe, in future cases. And you could see some adjustments in the contract, in the agreements between the union and all of that kind of stuff. Or at the very least, in the management of future cases. Like I said, maybe in the future, instead of handing 4 cases out of 30, they would handle all 30. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is the total picture.
Yeah, but there's a reason why they did that. Them other ones, once they settle, are they really even valid to the case anymore?
I think they're valid to the pattern of behavior, understanding the pattern.
But they settle.
So it's still his pattern of behavior.
It's over.
It's his pattern of behavior as representing the NFL. And I think that's the situation that the NFL had, because if the NFL looks up and all of a sudden people start protesting or something like it might not happen, but you remember how much hell they gave Mike Vick over the dogs here in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
After he had gone to jail and, tried restitution, was working, actively in the community to stop all of that, they still, now again, you know how people are about dogs.
Well, that's PETA. PETA they're off the hook.
Yeah, well, so there you go. The other thing that I wanted to mention was I took a look, and I have to admit, Ben, this thought came up from a conversation that we had with our old buddy Mark Russell. And he mentioned endorsements. He's like, well, is he getting endorsement money? Because one of the things that came out of this, and I believe to me, it didn't make me respect the Browns anymore, that they structured his contract so that he was paid the smallest portion of his contract in this first year, because they expected that he was going to lose a certain number of games. So they literally minimized his financial impact to about $300,000 by structuring his contract in such a way that in this first year, they didn't really pay him hardly.
That's smart business, isn't it?
Well, it also is a way of enabling someone who has obviously a problem and really hasn't taken full responsibility yet, because I still think it's a bit of a problem, and that's why the judge had to say you can't go anyplace else. They want to control that behavior. I mean, we talked about Kyler having a clause in his contract. He's got a clause in his settlement that says you can't even go outside the club. We don't trust you. So there's a question there. And yeah, in a business environment, that would be good. But if you're enabling someone and trying to keep them from having to really bear the full brunt of what he should be bearing in terms of his responsibility, to me, I find that a little questionable.
So if you ask them why they did that, what do you think they would say? There's a possibility he may be suspended, he may miss games. Therefore, business-wise, it doesn't make sense for us to give him a lot of his money up front when he's not actually on the field and able to produce. We'll do it later when we know he's going to be on the field and able to produce and therefore earn the amount of money that we're giving him. What's wrong with that?
From the amount of money that they're paying out, that's an interesting thing. Now, on the other perspective, if they gave him a lot of money in the first year and he was suspended, they wouldn't have to pay him that money, right? So they would actually save a lot of money.
I guess.
So a couple ways to look at it.
He's suspended without pay, yes. Yes, these 6 games he's suspended without pay. Yes, that is correct.
So the main thing that I wanted to point out here was apparently he has what's called a Q score, and all celebrities and stuff have a Q score,
right?
Which kind of represents their value to the public in terms of representing products and services and things of that nature. So he had a pretty good Q score before this. His Q score has gone negative, and for right now, he's, as it says here, he's going to be untouchable for endorsements. But you notice it says for 1 year or more.
Right.
So apparently they've watched other celebrities take up Ben Roethlisberger. He had an issue with a sexual assault charge. He was dropped for some endorsements, but later was able to revamp his reputation and raise his Q score and get back to being a viable endorser of products. So it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes. They're saying a year or two, depending on if he wins, and if he does all the right things, that in a couple of years, he could be back to endorsing products again.
So I got a list here. And nobody actually dropped him. Beats by Dre.
They dropped him.
Nike.
They dropped
him. And Reliant Energy. This says suspended. And he still has active contracts with DraftKings, Epix, Gillette, Miller Lite, Oikos.
What's the date of that article?
Let me see. July 23rd.
All right, because this article is August 2nd.
Okay.
But, again, you might have 2 different scenarios here. It says here that.
So Beats and Nike, I thought they dropped. This list says suspended. Okay.
All right.
And Reliant Energy, that's the name of the stadium. The Texans stadium is Reliant Stadium.
It does here say that Dyke suspended him also.
Okay. So he still got Samsung.
But it says here, Beats by Dre and Reliant Energy dropped him. So we have 2 different.
I wouldn't doubt that.
Okay.
I mean, Reliant Energy is the main sponsor of the Texans. He doesn't play for the Texans anymore.
Good point.
The other stuff, even if it's active, I'm sure they're probably paying him some minimum amount of money. But anyway, yeah, that's suspended, dropped, whatever. Yeah. This could go on. Let's face it, nobody's going to put him in a commercial for a while. You know,
That is true. That is true. Ben, here you go. Finns lose the first rounder for Brady Payton tampering. I wrote on here that there's an epic irony in this story. The irony is that they found all of this tampering evidence while investigating the claims of tanking and racial discrimination by the former coach.
amazing. We didn't find that, what we were supposed to be looking for, but oh, look what we found.
Oh, look what we found. And then, as far as the tampering and stuff, they're like, he was just joking. It wasn't serious. So we don't see any wrongdoing in that situation.
I knew that wasn't going to go nowhere. It's really hard to prove that a team is tanking. You just kind of got to know. You can't. It's very difficult to prove. It's hard. The whole process with the Sixers, that was really difficult. You bring in players that you know aren't going to win games, and then you put them out there and they play hard as heck, and every once in a while they win, but for the most part they're going to lose. That's tanking, but you can't prove it. You can't say they're losing on purpose because they're not, but you're putting your team in a position not to win.
Well, in this particular case, the coach wasn't trying to tank anyway. He refused.
He refused.
The accusation was that the owner actually said that to him,
right, which is almost impossible to prove unless you wear a wire and tape the guy saying it.
Well, the weird part is they're saying he was joking, so apparently they were okay with the fact that he actually said it.
Exactly, they're admitting he said it.
Right.
Evidently, Flores, somebody else must have heard him say it. Somebody else must have heard him say it, and then rather than to call Flores a liar, they said, "Oh yeah, okay, he said it, but he was joking." That's a bunch of bull, okay? And I don't know what he would have to do for the racial stuff. But anyway, in the meantime, here's the funny thing. He wanted them to tank because they don't trust Tua and they want to be in line to get the quarterback they want in this upcoming quarterback draft, just like the Seahawks.
But
now they lost their first round pick. Ugh. So that's out the window. So now they got to put all their eggs into his basket and hope like hell, Lord, please let Tua play good, which I personally think he is going to play well.
And then they'll trade him for a first-round draft pick.
No, they won't. No, they won't. They'll keep him. They'll keep him. But
if
that
he
was
plays
their
well, you think they'll keep him?
Yeah, that was their insurance.
I don't know. I've seen teams like the Vikings go to the NFC Championship and then turn around and get another quarterback because they didn't really believe in the quarterback that got them there. So I don't know. That's a question in my mind.
Did the quarterback actually get him there?
To the NFC Championship, right?
Or did the defense get him there?
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying.
Come on.
I'm just
saying. He was
saying.
the quarterback of the team, you know.
So
he got. Hey, look, any other quarterback, you say the quarterback got him there. He didn't stop him. He didn't.
Who just got the 49ers 2 plays away from the Super Bowl?
Garoppolo.
Okay, and what are they doing?
They got a new quarterback. Well, that's what I'm saying to you. He got us all the way there, and they still got rid of him. So we're agreeing on the same.
Yeah, that's right. We are agreeing. But I would probably argue the Vikings deal a little bit. I mean, Jimmy G was an integral part. I don't know about that other guy.
Well, Ben, All right. I want to finish it up with this here. This one right here. Let's see if I can actually show this video. Can you see a video there?
Yes.
All right, let me hit it. So they're talking about Stingley. Darryl
Okay.
Stingley Jr. being in perfect position to pick that ball off. And I said, the heck kind of route was off? The wide receiver running.
I have no idea what that route was.
What was that? It was one-on-one, so you know the ball's coming.
I have no clue what he was trying to accomplish.
I mean, how many steps are you going to take in between your cut? What do that?
I mean, what? That's not even an out route. What is that? Come on, man.
Oh my goodness.
You know what that is?
What's that?
That's that guy that played you in Madden, giving up. That's concession. He gave him all his best moves, and he's like, shit, he ain't going nowhere.
He ain't going nowhere.
I give up. Oh, he threw it to me. Oh.
I'm like, holy mackerel. So this is what.
Yeah, and what was the quarterback looking at?
Well, that's it. It was only one. There's only one pattern, so you're going to throw it there one way or the other. So you know the ball's coming. You knew it was coming. The defender knew it was coming. All the people standing around knew it was coming.
I'd have drilled him in the back of the head with it, then let him pick it off. I'd just fire it at his back. He never turned around.
He probably was dizzy from all those fake moves he had.
His feet hurt. He couldn't finish the route because his feet hurt.
I'm like, holy mackerel.
Okay. The hell was that?
Well, hopefully Darryl Stingley will have a more legitimate interception in his future.
I'm sure he will.
I'm sure he will. All right. That's it for me, Mr. Benjamin Dickerson. What else you got?
Lest we forget, we're 2 weeks away from Philly Bowl. Believe it is August 13th and 14th, if that's Saturday and Sunday. So make sure you put it on your calendar and you show up out there. You want to see some good flag football. Let me see, what else did I have? Our practices, Philly Knowles practices have been coming along pretty well. We've had a couple of scrimmages against some Division I teams. We're right now playing Division III. When we go to nationals, we will probably play Division II. But Philly Bowl is basically going to be upper division, lower division. So it's going to be Divisions I and II teams will be playing together in one bracket. Division III teams will be in another bracket. I like our chances. Like I said, practices have been going well. Really looking forward to this tournament. It's going to be a big, big tournament. If you like flag football, if you think you like flag football, if you're not sure about flag football, this is the tournament you want to go to. All the top teams from here to the Mississippi River are going to be in this tournament. All of them. The only team I can think of off the top of my head that's really, really good that won't be there is probably the Kings of Florida. Main event from North Jersey, New York, they'll be there. All-Stars United from DC. DC, Maryland is going to be loaded. Up in Smoke, All-Stars United, Extreme Odds, everybody's going to be there, man. It's going to be a who's who.
A who's who.
It's going to be a who's who of flag football. I'm serious.
Okay.
Very serious. It's going to be good, man. From Philly, Untouchable Cobras, UT Cobras will be there.
So they've come together.
Yes, it's UT Cobras.
Wow.
UT Cobras will be there. NWO will be there. That's the two top-ranked Philly teams. And they've had a lot of success against Maryland teams. This is gonna be a rough. This is gonna be great. If my team wasn't playing, I'd be sitting watching. This is gonna be a really good tournament, man. So it's gonna be in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. The name of the complex is the Proving Grounds. So you can look it up and get directions. It's probably the only way I really know to get to Conshohocken. I know you can go like to Plymouth Meeting to get to Conshohocken, or you can go Lincoln Drive and then jump on, what is that? It's not the turnpike.
You're on 76?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That'll take you there too. It's maybe half-hour ride, 40 minutes. Yep. So other than that, go Noles.